Part 1. The Impossible Signal. The Galactic Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. 12 powerful alien species worked together under one banner, and their military strength was unmatched. Every corner of known space bowed to their authority. Their technology was the best in the galaxy, and no newcomer species had ever challenged them. On the grand capital world of Velthara Prime, the Dominion Council gathered in their massive chamber. The room was filled with representatives from all 12 species, each one confident in their superior position in the universe. Today they discussed a new discovery, a primitive planet called Earth, home to creatures called humans. Commander Jiwan sat in the briefing room aboard her flagship. She was a veteran officer of the Veltar fleet, one of the Dominion's most respected military branches. Her blue-gray skin reflected the light from the holographic display showing the human home system. The humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. In galactic terms, they were babies. "Commander, we've detected unusual energy signatures near human space," reported her science officer. "The readings are inconsistent. They appear and disappear randomly." Jiwan studied the data. "Sensor malfunction?" "Most likely. The humans barely have fusion drives that work properly. There's no way they could generate energy signatures of this magnitude." Jiwan nodded. The Dominion had encountered hundreds of young species before. They all followed the same pattern: slow technological development, primitive weapons, and an eagerness to learn from their galactic superiors. Humans would be no different. "We'll investigate," Jiwan said. "Prepare the fleet for a standard first contact enforcement mission. 3 ships should be enough." 3 weeks later, Jiwan's small fleet arrived at the edge of human space. They found a busy commercial route where human cargo ships traveled between colonies. It was time to establish Dominion authority. This was standard procedure: show overwhelming force, demand submission, and integrate the new species into the galactic order. A human cargo vessel appeared on their sensors. It was small, boxy, and looked like it had been repaired many times. Jiwan opened a communication channel. "Attention, human vessel. This is Commander Jiwan of the Galactic Dominion Fleet. You are required to submit to inspection and acknowledge Dominion authority over this region of space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." There was a long pause. Then a woman's voice responded, calm and polite. "This is Captain Hyejin of the merchant vessel Morning Star. I appreciate the introduction, but we don't recognize Dominion authority in human space." "Have a nice day." Jiwan blinked in surprise. In her 20 years of service, no one had ever refused a Dominion order so casually. "Captain Hyejin, you don't understand. This is not a request. Power down your engines immediately or we will disable them for you." "I understand perfectly," Hyejin replied, "and I'm telling you no. Human space is sovereign territory. If you want to establish diplomatic relations, contact our embassy on Velthara Prime. Until then, stay out of our way." Jiwan felt her temper rise. She ordered her weapons officer to fire a warning shot across the human ship's bow. The plasma bolt streaked through space, missing the cargo vessel by a safe distance. It was meant to frighten, not harm. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ship's systems came alive. Electronic countermeasures burst from the small vessel, flooding Dominion sensors with false signals. Jiwan's targeting computers went haywire. Warning alarms sounded across her bridge. For 30 seconds, her entire fleet was blind. When the sensors cleared, the human cargo ship was gone. It had jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared. But the speed it achieved was far beyond what human technology should allow. The energy signature left behind suggested propulsion systems that shouldn't exist. "What just happened?" Jiwan demanded. Her sensor officer, a young technician named Minho, studied his console with wide eyes. "Commander, that ship moved at speeds matching our military cruisers. And those electronic warfare systems, they're more advanced than ours. Impossible. Run a diagnostic." The sensors must be malfunctioning, but the diagnostics came back clean. Everything had worked perfectly. The human ship had simply outperformed them. Jiwan filed her report with Dominion Command. She expected immediate concern, perhaps even panic. Instead, she received a dismissive response. The analysts concluded that humans must have purchased black market technology from illegal dealers. It happened sometimes with young species who had more money than sense. Nothing to worry about. The humans would learn their place eventually, but Jiwan wasn't so sure. Something about the encounter bothered her. Captain Hyejin's voice had been too calm, too confident. She hadn't sounded like someone bluffing with stolen technology. She sounded like someone who knew exactly what her ship could do. 3 weeks passed. Jiwan returned to her normal patrol duties, trying to forget the strange encounter. Then the reports started coming in from all across the Dominion's outer rim. Long-range monitoring stations were detecting a massive energy signature moving through space. It was huge, sometimes appearing as large as a small moon on sensors. Other times it vanished completely, as if it didn't exist at all. The Dominion's best scientists argued about what it could be. Some thought it was a natural phenomenon, perhaps a wandering neutron star or an exotic matter cloud. Others believed it was a sensor glitch affecting multiple stations simultaneously. A few suggested it might be an ancient automated probe from a dead civilization, still following its programming after millions of years. Jiwan volunteered to investigate. She took her battle group, 6 warships all heavily armed and equipped with the best sensors in the Dominion fleet. As they approached the coordinates where the energy signature had last been detected, Minho worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm picking up something," he said. "The energy signature is definitely artificial. It's not a natural phenomenon. Can you identify it?" "No, ma'am. It doesn't match any known propulsion system in our database. The power output is enormous, but it's not consistent with any Dominion technology. And it's heading directly toward Dominion space." Jiwan felt a cold sensation run down her spine. "All ships to battle stations. Raise shields and charge weapons. Whatever this thing is, we're not taking chances." Her fleet moved into a defensive formation. They approached the energy signature carefully, ready for anything. When they got close enough for visual confirmation, every member of Jiwan's crew fell silent. It was a warship, but not like any warship in Dominion records. The vessel was massive, easily 5 times the size of Jiwan's flagship. Its hull was covered in angular armor plating that seemed to absorb sensor beams. Strange markings covered its surface, and weapon ports dotted every surface. The design was brutal and efficient, with no wasted space or decorative elements. "Get me an identification signal," Jiwan ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. Minho worked his console. "Broadcasting in multiple languages, Commander. Primary identifier reads, KDSF Taegugi, Korean Defense Space Force." "Korean? Is that a species we know?" "Checking." "No, ma'am. Korean is a human ethnicity, a national group from Earth. This is a human warship." The bridge fell silent. Jiwan stared at the massive vessel on her view screen. It was impossible. Humans had only been in space for a few decades. They were primitive, barely capable of crossing their own solar system until recently. They couldn't have built something like this. It was too large, too advanced, too powerful. But there it was, hanging in space like a sleeping giant. And it was definitely human. Jiwan opened a priority channel to Dominion Command. Her hands shook slightly as she transmitted the message. "This is Commander Jiwan to Dominion Central Command. I am transmitting visual and sensor data of an unknown vessel in Grid Sector 774. Requesting immediate analysis and instructions. The vessel identifies as human origin." She paused, staring at the warship that dwarfed her entire battle group. "Permission to ask a question for the record?" she added. "Granted," came the reply from headquarters. Jiwan took a deep breath. That can't be a human warship, right? The silence that followed was deafening. Part 2. The demonstration. The Dominion Council convened an emergency session within hours of Jiwan's report. The massive chamber on Velthara Prime filled with worried voices and angry debates. Holographic displays showed images of the human warship from every angle. The vessel looked dangerous, powerful, and completely out of place for such a young species. Admiral Borak stood at the center of the chamber. He was old, covered in scars from a dozen campaigns, and he commanded the Dominion's first armada. His reputation was legendary, and his pride was even larger. He slammed his fist on the speaker's podium, making the entire structure shake. "This is a bluff," he shouted. "The humans are trying to frighten us with a stolen ship. Perhaps they found an abandoned vessel from some ancient civilization. Perhaps they bought it from criminals. But there is no way these primitive creatures built this themselves. I refuse to believe it." Other council members nodded in agreement. It made sense. Young species didn't leap from basic fusion drives to advanced warships in just 30 years. It was impossible. The humans must be lying. "We should teach them a lesson," Borak continued. Show them that the Dominion does not tolerate deception. I propose we send a fleet to seize this vessel and punish them for their arrogance." Before the vote could be called, the Council's communication officer interrupted. "Excuse me, but Ambassador Tajan of Earth has requested an immediate audience. He says it concerns the warship." The council chamber fell silent. Then someone laughed. "Let him come. I want to see him try to explain this." Ambassador Tajan entered the chamber 5 minutes later. He was a middle-aged human with silver hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple black suit that looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and armor of the Dominion representatives. But there was something about the way he walked, the way he smiled, that made several council members uncomfortable. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," Tajan said, his voice polite and measured. "I understand there's some confusion about one of our vessels." "Confusion?" Admiral Borak stepped forward. "You claim to have built a warship that rivals our best military technology. A species that learned faster than light travel just 3 decades ago. Explain yourself, human." Tajan's smile didn't waver. "The KDSF Taiguchi is indeed one of our vessels. It's a Corvette-class ship from our defensive fleet, one of 12 currently in service. We built it in our shipyards orbiting Jupiter, which is a planet in our home system. Construction took approximately 4 years." The council chamber erupted in laughter. Several representatives actually fell from their seats, clutching their sides. A Corvette? Corvettes were small escort ships meant to screen larger vessels. The thing G1 had found was massive, and the humans claimed it was one of their smaller designs? "You must think we're fools," Borak said, his voice dripping with contempt. "That vessel is larger than most of our heavy cruisers, and you say it's small? Compared to our destroyer and battleship classes, yes," Tajan replied calmly. "The Taiguchi is designed for long-range patrol and rapid response. It's not one of our larger vessels." The laughter died down. Several council members exchanged worried glances. Either this human was insane or he was telling the truth. Neither option was comforting. "I don't believe you," Borak declared. "I think you're trying to intimidate the Dominion with lies and stolen technology. Prove your claims or admit your deception." Tajan nodded slowly. "Very well. Would the Dominion be interested in a peaceful demonstration of our defensive capabilities? We could arrange a simulated combat exercise. Your ships against the Taiguchi. No live weapons, of course. Just holographic targeting systems. First side to score 10 kills wins." Borak's eyes lit up with savage joy. "Agreed. I will personally select the ships and commanders. When do we begin?" "Tomorrow, if that's convenient for you." The demonstration was set for the next day in a neutral section of space. Borak chose 6 of his best heavy cruisers, all commanded by veteran officers with decades of combat experience. These were not training vessels or second-rate ships. These were frontline warships that had fought in real battles against real enemies. Borak was confident they would expose the humans' bluff within minutes. He watched from his command flagship as the 6 cruisers took up position in the combat zone. The Taiguchi arrived exactly on time, appearing out of faster-than-light travel with barely a ripple on sensors. The human warship looked even more intimidating up close. Its dark armor seemed to swallow light, and its weapon arrays tracked Borak's ships with mechanical precision. A communication channel opened. A young human appeared on the screen, wearing a gray uniform with colorful patches on the shoulders. He had short black hair and tired eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. "This is Captain Junho of the KDSF Taiguchi. We're ready to begin when you are, Admiral Borak. Remember, holographic targets only. No actual damage will be inflicted. This is purely an exercise to demonstrate our capabilities." Borak sneered. "Begin when ready, Captain. Try not to embarrass yourself too badly." The human smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Understood. Starting the exercise in 3, 2, 1, mark." The Dominion cruisers moved forward in their traditional attack formation. It was a tactic refined over thousands of years, tested in hundreds of battles. 6 ships arranged in a hexagonal pattern covering all angles impossible to flank. Any enemy caught in the center of the formation would be destroyed by crossfire from all directions. The Taiguchi didn't move into the center. Instead, it accelerated. Borak watched in disbelief as the human ship shot forward at speeds that should have torn it apart. The acceleration was impossible. No crew could survive forces like that without being crushed into paste. But the Taiguchi didn't slow down. It curved around the Dominion formation in a sweeping arc, moving faster than any ship Borak had ever seen. Within seconds, the human warship was behind all 6 cruisers. The Dominion captains tried to turn their ships, tried to bring their weapons to bear, but they moved too slowly. The Taguchi's holographic targeting systems locked onto each vessel in rapid succession. 6 beams of harmless light painted each cruiser, signaling a kill. The entire engagement lasted 30 seconds. Borak stared at his tactical display in shock. All 6 of his ships were marked as destroyed. The Taguchi had taken no hits. Not a single shot from the Dominion cruisers had even come close. That was a fluke, Borak stammered. We weren't prepared for such reckless speed. Again, we'll do it again. Captain Junho's voice came over the channel, still calm and professional. Of course, Admiral. Resetting positions. Ready when you are. The second engagement lasted 15 seconds. The Taguchi used a different tactic this time, accelerating directly toward the Dominion formation at maximum speed. Borak's captains fired everything they had, but the human ship dodged every shot with movements so precise they looked choreographed. The Taguchi passed through the center of the formation, scoring kills on all 6 ships before they could react, then vanished into faster-than-light travel before they could fire again. When it reappeared behind them, all 6 cruisers were already marked as destroyed. Borak felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. These humans moved like nothing he'd ever seen. They predicted every move, exploited every weakness, and operated with a precision that seemed impossible for biological creatures. One more time, he demanded, his voice shaking slightly. Best of 3. Admiral, Captain Junho said quietly, I don't think that's necessary. We've demonstrated our capabilities. There's no need to embarrass your crews further. One more time, Borak roared. The third engagement lasted 8 seconds. Back on Velthara Prime, the Dominion Council watched recordings of the battle in complete silence. Every member had seen combat before. They all understood tactics, strategy, and warfare, and they all understood what they had just witnessed. The humans weren't bluffing. The Taguchi wasn't stolen technology. It was genuinely a human warship, built by human hands, operated by human crews, and it had defeated 6 of the Dominion's best ships without taking a single hit. 3 times in a row. A junior council member named Soman raised her hand nervously. She represented a small species that had joined the Dominion for protection centuries ago. Her voice trembled as she asked the question everyone was thinking. Ambassador Teijin, you said the Taguchi was one of your smaller ships. A corvette, is that correct? Teijin nodded, his expression neutral. That's correct, Council Member Soman. Then, if that's one of your smaller ships, what do your larger ones look like? The silence that followed was absolute. Every eye in the chamber turned to the human ambassador, waiting for an answer. Teijin's smile returned, but he said nothing. He simply stood there, letting the question hang in the air like a knife. Finally, he spoke. The Galactic Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years. You've achieved wonders and maintained peace across countless worlds. Humanity respects that achievement. We seek only peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial trade. We have no desire for conflict. He paused, letting his words sink in. All we ask is that you respect our sovereignty. Don't enter human space without permission. Don't threaten our ships. Don't test our patience. Do that, and we'll be the best friends you've ever had. Part 3. The Dominion's mistake. Admiral Borak couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that human warship moving through space like a dancer, impossible and graceful and terrifying. The Dominion Council had voted for peace, but Borak knew that peace built on fear was no peace at all. The humans were hiding something. They had to be. No species advanced that quickly without help or without some terrible weakness. He would find that weakness. 3 weeks after the demonstration, Borak launched an unauthorized black operations mission into human space. He chose his team carefully. The best intelligence officers, the finest stealth operatives, the most skilled combat specialists the Dominion had to offer. And he chose Commander Jiwon to lead them, despite her protests. This violates the peace agreement, Jiwon said, standing in Borak's private office aboard his flagship. The Council specifically prohibited military action in human space. The Council is afraid, Borak replied, not looking up from the mission files on his desk. Fear makes civilizations weak. Someone must be strong enough to protect the Dominion's interests, even if the Council lacks that courage. You will infiltrate a human facility, Gather intelligence on their technology and return. Simple, clean, necessary. And if we're caught, you won't be. We'll use our best stealth ship and the latest sensor masking technology. The humans will never know you were there. Borak finally looked up, his eyes hard. This is not a request, Commander. It's an order. You leave in 4 hours. Jiwan's team consisted of 6 operatives, including her loyal sensor officer Minho. They traveled in a small stealth vessel designed to avoid detection. Their target was a mining station in the outer human territories. Lightly populated, minimal security, far from Earth's main defensive fleets. Intelligence suggested the station processed rare materials used in advanced propulsion systems. If they could discover what made human ships so fast, they could find a way to counter it. The infiltration began smoothly. They approached under the cover of an asteroid debris field, matching their course and speed perfectly. Their stealth systems worked flawlessly. They docked with the station's maintenance section and cut through an airlock without triggering any alarms. The interior of the station was surprisingly normal. Metal corridors, standard lighting, basic life support systems. Nothing seemed particularly advanced or unusual. Jiwan's team split up to cover more ground, maintaining radio contact as they searched for computer terminals or research labs. Minho found the station's main computer core and began downloading files. Commander, this doesn't look like a military facility. It's just a mining station. Civilian workers, basic equipment, standard ore processing. Keep looking, Jiwan ordered. The humans are clever. They might hide their important facilities in plain sight. That's when the alarms went off. Red lights flooded the corridors. A calm voice spoke over the station's speakers in both human language and Dominion standard. Intruder alert. All personnel to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Jiwan's blood ran cold. How did they detect us? Our stealth systems are perfect. They ran toward their ship but found their path blocked by humans in work coveralls carrying weapons. These weren't soldiers. They looked like miners and technicians. But they moved with military precision, taking cover and setting up defensive positions with practiced efficiency. An older human stepped forward. He had a prosthetic arm and scars on his face that spoke of a hard life. He held a rifle casually like he'd done this 1,000 times before. That's far enough, the human said in perfect Dominion language. Drop your weapons and surrender. Nobody has to get hurt. We are Dominion military operatives, Jiwan declared, trying to sound authoritative despite her racing heart. You are interfering with official business. Stand aside. The old human, his name patch read Diho, actually laughed. Official business? Son, you just broke into our station wearing stealth suits and carrying enough firepower to level half the facility. That's not official business. That's a crime. Jiwan made a decision she would regret. She ordered her team to fight their way through. Dominion weapons were superior, their armor was better, their training was the finest in the galaxy. A handful of civilian miners shouldn't be able to stop them. She was wrong. The firefight was brutal and short. Deho's people fought with a ferocity that shocked Jiwan. They used the station's layout perfectly, setting up ambushes in the maintenance tunnels. They coordinated their movements with hand signals and short bursts of communication. 3 of Jiwan's operatives went down in the first minute, their armor pierced by weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate Dominion military shields. Jiwan realized too late that these weren't civilian miners. They were off-duty military personnel on work rotation. Every human on the station had combat training. Fall back, she shouted. Get to the ship! They retreated through the corridors, fighting every step of the way. Minho covered their escape, laying down suppressing fire while the others ran. But a human ambush cut off his path. He went down with a stun blast to the chest, unconscious before he hit the floor. Jiwan hesitated. Every instinct told her to go back for him. But if she did, they'd all be captured. The mission would be exposed. War might follow. Commander, we have to go, one of her operatives shouted. With tears streaming down her face, Jiwan ran. They reached their stealth ship and launched, leaving behind 3 dead operatives and Minho as a prisoner. The station didn't even try to stop them. They just let Jiwan's damaged ship limp away into the darkness of space. Minho woke up in a clean, well-lit medical bay. His wounds had been treated and he was lying on a comfortable bed. For a moment, he thought he'd been rescued. Then he saw Deho sitting in a chair beside the bed, reading something on a data pad. Welcome back, the old human said without looking up. How do you feel? Like I've been shot, Minho replied honestly. Then fear set in. Are you going to torture me for information? Deho finally looked at him, his expression somewhere between amused and sad. Son, we're not barbarians. You'll be treated according to the Geneva Conventions and returned through diplomatic channels once you're healthy enough to travel. Your dead comrades will be returned to their families with full honors. No torture. No executions. Just proper medical care and eventual release. Minho couldn't believe it. But we attacked your station. We killed your people. You did. And we defended ourselves. That's how combat works. Deho set down his datapad and leaned forward. Let me ask you something. Do you know why I'm not angry at you personally? Minho shook his head. Because you're a soldier following orders. Bad orders, stupid orders, but orders nonetheless. I've been there, done that. Made mistakes because someone higher up told me to. Deho's prosthetic hand flexed unconsciously. We humans, we've spent thousands of years fighting each other. Countless wars. Millions dead. We learned some hard lessons about how to treat prisoners of war. What lessons? That cruelty breeds more cruelty. That revenge never ends. That if you want peace, you have to show mercy even to your enemies. Deho stood up. You'll be shipped back to the Dominion in a few days. When you get there, tell your superiors something for me. What? Tell them we remember being the underdogs. We remember what it's like to be weak, to be afraid, to face enemies who seemed unbeatable. We don't kick people when they're down. We give them a chance to surrender with honor. Deho walked toward the door, then paused. But tell them this too, mercy isn't weakness. We spare you because we're strong enough to. Don't mistake our kindness for softness. Back at Dominion headquarters, Admiral Borak received the news of the failed mission with barely contained rage. 3 operatives dead, 1 captured, and the humans had exposed his unauthorized action to the entire Galactic Council. Ambassadors from all 12 Dominion species demanded an explanation. The vote of censure was swift. Borak was officially reprimanded and ordered to stand down. No further military action against humanity would be permitted under any circumstances. The Council even issued a formal apology to the humans, hoping to prevent a diplomatic crisis. But it was too late for apologies. The humans had already moved their pieces on the galactic chessboard. Ambassador Tajin addressed the Galactic Council 3 days later. Minho had been returned healthy and unharmed. The bodies of the fallen operatives had been sent back with full military honors, each one in a flag-draped coffin. The humans could have used the incident to demand concessions or reparations. Instead, Tajin spoke about understanding and mistakes. But at the end of his speech, his tone changed. The Dominion has existed for 10,000 years, Tajin said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You've achieved great things. But you've also grown comfortable. You assume that because you've always been the strongest, you always will be. Let me share something about humanity that you need to understand. He activated a holographic display showing images of Earth's history. Battlefields, destroyed cities, mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes. We've faced extinction more times than I can count. We've fought wars so terrible that they nearly destroyed our entire species. We developed weapons capable of rendering our planet uninhabitable. We stood on the brink of annihilation and somehow pulled ourselves back. Tajin's eyes swept across the council members. Part 4. The Hammer Falls, the Dominion. First Armada was a sight to inspire awe and terror. 100 warships moved through space in perfect formation, their shields glowing with power, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Borak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet's progress toward human space. This was the largest military force the Dominion had assembled in centuries. Surely the humans would see reason now. Surely they would understand that their tricks and their clever little corvette meant nothing against overwhelming force. Borak wasn't a monster. He would give them one chance to surrender before he destroyed their pathetic fleet and forced them to accept Dominion authority. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. We cross into human space in 10 minutes. Borak nodded. Maintain formation. Weapons ready, but hold fire until my command. Let's show these upstarts what real military power looks like. The Armada crossed the boundary into human territory. Borak expected resistance, patrol ships, warning messages, defensive formations. Instead, he found nothing. Sensors showed empty space in every direction. No human vessels, no defensive stations, no response at all. Where are they? Borak demanded. Scan the system again. His sensor officers worked frantically. "Admiral, we're detecting no ships within range. The system appears empty." A cold smile crossed Borak's face. "They're hiding, cowering on their homeworld, hoping we'll simply leave. Continue toward Earth. Maximum speed. We'll drag them out of their holes." The fleet advanced deeper into human space. Hours passed. Still nothing. The silence was unnerving. Even Borak's most loyal officers began to shift uncomfortably at their stations. Where were the humans? "Admiral," the sensor chief said nervously, "I'm detecting some unusual readings. Might be sensor ghosts, but—" "Then ignore them," Borak snapped. "Focus on real threats, not imaginary ones." But the sensor ghosts multiplied. Dozens of them, then hundreds, surrounding the Dominion fleet like invisible predators. The readings flickered in and out of existence, always just at the edge of detection range. Then the stars went out. It happened so suddenly that several crew members cried out in shock. One moment, the view screen showed normal space with distant stars. The next moment, those stars disappeared, replaced by darkness and the hulking shadows of massive ships. "All stop!" Borak shouted. "Battle stations! Where did they come from?" His tactical display lit up with contacts. 30 capital ships, each one larger than anything in the Dominion fleet, had appeared from nowhere. They surrounded the Armada in a perfect sphere, their weapons trained inward. The Dominion formation, designed to attack and overwhelm, was suddenly trapped in a cage of steel and firepower. A communication channel opened. A human woman appeared on the screen. She had dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, cold eyes that had seen too much combat, and the insignia of an admiral on her gray uniform. She looked directly at Borak, and he felt a chill run down his spine. "I am Admiral Minji of the Korean Defense Space Force, commanding the KDSF Seoul and the Third Fleet. You have illegally entered human sovereign space with a military force. You have exactly 1 minute to power down your weapons and submit to escort out of our territory. If you do not comply, we will consider this an act of war and respond accordingly." Borak found his voice. "You dare threaten the Dominion? We have 100 warships." "And we have 30, Minji replied calmly. "But math isn't really the issue. Here, is it? You've seen what one of our corvettes can do. You're looking at our actual battle fleet. I'll ask one more time, Admiral. Power down and leave peacefully or face the consequences." Borak's pride wouldn't allow retreat. Not now. Not after coming this far. He convinced himself that the humans were bluffing, that they couldn't possibly fight against such odds. He'd already lost face before the entire Dominion. He couldn't lose again. "All ships open fire. Target the nearest human vessels." It was the last order he would ever give as a free commander. The Dominion fleet unleashed everything it had. Plasma cannons fired, missiles launched, energy weapons painted the darkness with deadly light. Enough firepower to destroy a planet streaked toward the human ships. None of it hit. The human fleet didn't dodge in the traditional sense. They simply weren't where the weapons went. Point defense systems shot down every missile before they traveled a kilometer. Energy weapons dissipated against some kind of defensive field that bent the beams away from their targets. It was like watching someone try to punch smoke. Then the humans returned fire, but not with conventional weapons. Directed electromagnetic pulses burst from the human ships, washing over the Dominion fleet like invisible waves. Electronics failed across every vessel. Shields collapsed. Weapon systems went offline. Life support stuttered and switched to emergency power. Within 30 seconds, the entire Dominion First Armada was dead in space, floating helplessly without power. No one had died. No ships had been destroyed. The humans had simply turned off the entire fleet like flipping a switch. "What? What did they do?" Borak whispered, staring at his dark console. Admiral Minji's face appeared on the emergency battery-powered screen. "We disabled your fleet using electromagnetic pulse weapons. Your ships are intact, your crews are safe, but you're no longer a threat. In approximately 1 hour, our engineers will board your vessels and restore basic life support and navigation. You'll be escorted out of human space under guard." "You can't do this," Borak said, his voice breaking. The Dominion will not stand for such humiliation. The Dominion will accept this because the alternative is much worse, Minji replied. Consider this a learning experience. You came here with 100 ships thinking you could intimidate us. We've shown you that numbers don't matter when the technology gap is this wide. Be grateful we're letting you leave with your lives and your ships. Many civilizations wouldn't be so merciful. Hours later, after emergency power had been restored, Borak was contacted by Captain Kyung-min. The human officer appeared on his screen in full combat armor, standing in what looked like a boarding shuttle. Admiral Borak, you're being transferred to my ship temporarily. Admiral Minji wants to show you something before you're sent home. Please come peacefully. We'd rather not use force. Borak had no choice. His ship was powerless, his fleet was disabled, and his entire military career was in ruins. He followed Kyung-min onto the human shuttle in silence. The journey to the human flagship was short. Kyung-min escorted Borak to the observation deck, a large room with massive windows overlooking space. What Borak saw there destroyed the last of his confidence. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and green jewel against the darkness. But surrounding it were hundreds of structures, orbital stations, shipyards, defensive platforms, and ships. So many ships, vessels of every size, from small patrol craft to enormous dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything the Dominion had ever built. And in the shipyards, Borak could see even larger vessels under construction, their skeletal frames already bigger than his entire flagship. This is what you would have faced if you'd reached Earth, Kyung-min said quietly. He was a scarred veteran, his armor marked with battle damage from conflicts Borak couldn't imagine. The Third Fleet that disabled your armada represents about 30% of our current military strength. The rest is here, protecting our home. Borak stared at the impossible sight. How? How did you build all of this so quickly? We've been in space for decades, Admiral. We've been expecting to meet hostile species since we left our solar system. Humans are optimistic, but we're not naive. We hoped for peace, but we prepared for war. Kyung-min gestured toward the massive shipyards. Everything you see here was built from scratch by human hands using human technology, designed by human engineers who studied every military conflict in our long and bloody history. But your species only discovered faster than light travel 30 years ago. True, but we've been building ships for centuries before that. We've been studying physics for longer, and we've been fighting wars for our entire existence as a species. Kyung-min's expression hardened. We didn't waste our time assuming we were supreme or destined to rule. We spent it learning from our mistakes and preparing for threats we hoped we'd never face. He turned to face Borak directly. You came here thinking you could bully us into submission. You thought we were weak because we're young. But strength isn't about age, Admiral. It's about will, determination, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect what matters. We have those things in abundance. Borak felt something break inside him. His entire worldview, built over decades of military service, crumbled in the face of human capability. The Dominion wasn't supreme. They weren't the strongest. They'd just been lucky enough not to meet anyone stronger until now. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you go home, Kyung-min replied. You report to your superiors exactly what you saw here. You tell them that humanity is willing to be friends, allies, and trading partners. But we will never be subjects. We will never bow to anyone. And if the Dominion tries to force the issue, we'll defend ourselves with everything we have. The captain's expression softened slightly. We're not monsters, Admiral. We don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to be left alone to explore the galaxy and live our lives. Give us that. Part 5. The New Order. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so tense. Representatives from all 12 Dominion species sat in their designated seats, but the usual confidence and authority were gone. They'd all seen the reports. They'd all watched the recordings. The First Armada, the pride of Dominion military might, had been defeated without the humans destroying a single ship. Admiral Borak stood at the center of the chamber, stripped of his rank insignia. He looked old and tired, nothing like the proud warrior who had commanded fleets for decades. His report was simple and devastating. The humans had technological superiority, tactical superiority, and the will to use both. Attacking them again would be suicide. Some council members called for immediate retaliation. Others demanded appeasement. Several smaller species representatives sat quietly, watching and calculating. The Dominion had protected them for centuries, but that protection had come with a price: submission, limited autonomy, and the constant reminder that they were inferior members of the Galactic Order. Now suddenly, someone had proven that the Dominion wasn't invincible. Ambassador Taejin rose to speak. The chamber fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the human would say after such a complete victory. Members of the Galactic Council, Taejin began, his voice calm and measured. Humanity did not seek conflict with the Dominion. We responded to illegal military action with the minimum force necessary to protect our sovereignty. We disabled your fleet rather than destroy it. We returned your personnel unharmed. We've demonstrated both our capability and our restraint. He paused, letting his words sink in. Now we have a choice, all of us together. We can continue down the path of confrontation, or we can build something new, something better. Taejin activated a holographic display showing a proposed galactic framework. Humanity proposes the creation of a galactic consortium to replace the current Dominion structure. Every species would have equal representation, regardless of military strength or technological advancement. Decisions would be made through consensus, not force. Trade would be free and fair, and most importantly, no species would have the right to conquer or subjugate another. The chamber erupted in debate. Some council members saw this as an opportunity. Others viewed it as surrender to human demands. The argument raged for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The proposal passed by a narrow margin. The Galactic Dominion, which had ruled known space for 10,000 years, was reorganized into the Galactic Consortium. Humanity took a seat on the ruling council alongside the traditional powers, and the balance of galactic civilization shifted forever. Not everyone was happy with the change, but everyone understood that the alternative was worse. Commander Ji-won sat in her quarters aboard her ship, staring at the official letter on her datapad. She'd been certain her career was over after participating in Borok's unauthorized mission. Instead, she'd received an unexpected offer from Admiral Minji herself, a position as liaison officer in a joint human-Veltar military training program. Ji-won read the message 3 times, looking for hidden meanings or tricks. Finally, she accepted. 2 weeks later, she found herself traveling to Earth, specifically to a nation called Korea. She'd never been to an alien homeworld before. The descent through Earth's atmosphere was terrifying and beautiful. Blue skies, white clouds, vast oceans, and land masses covered in cities and forests. Korea was a peninsula on the planet's eastern hemisphere, densely populated and technologically advanced even by Dominion standards. Rear Admiral Junho met her at the spaceport. He was the same young officer who had commanded the Taeguki during the demonstration. Up close, he looked even younger than Ji-won had expected, but his eyes showed the weight of command. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Ji-won," Junho said in perfect Veltar language. "I hope your journey was comfortable. Why are you doing this?" Ji-won blurted out. "I was part of the team that attacked your mining station. I should be your enemy." Junho smiled slightly. "You were a soldier following orders. We don't hold grudges against people doing their duty. Besides, we need officers like you, people who understand both human and Dominion tactics. The galaxy's changing, Commander. We need to change with it." Over the following months, Ji-won worked alongside human officers in the training program. She met Sujin, a tactical instructor who had fought in human conflicts before they reached space. She worked with Young-ho, a diplomatic attaché who taught her about human psychology and culture. She learned that humans weren't superhuman or impossibly advanced. They were just relentlessly practical and adaptable. The most important lesson came during a tactical simulation. Ji-won commanded a mixed human-Veltar fleet against a theoretical enemy. The simulation was designed to be unwinnable: overwhelming enemy forces, limited resources, no possibility of victory. It was a classic Dominion training exercise meant to teach commanders when to retreat. Ji-won followed traditional doctrine and ordered a withdrawal to save her forces. The simulation ended with her fleet escaping, but the objective lost. Sujin reviewed the results with her afterward. "You preserved your forces, good, but you lost the objective." "Why?" "Because winning was impossible," Ji-won replied. "The simulation was designed to teach the value of tactical retreat." And that's the difference between Dominion and human military thinking, Sujin said quietly. We don't accept that winning is impossible. We change the rules, find another way, or die trying. You know what a human commander would have done in that simulation? Jiwan shook her head. Split the fleet. Send the smaller, faster ships on a suicide run to distract the enemy, while the capital ships flanked and hit their supply lines. Yes, you'd lose ships. Yes, casualties would be high, but you'd complete the objective. Sujin's expression was serious. Dominion doctrine assumes you're always the stronger force. Our doctrine assumes we're always the underdog. That's why we win. The words hit Jiwan hard. She'd spent her entire career in a military that assumed superiority. The humans had spent theirs preparing for defeat and finding ways to win anyway. One day, Junho invited Jiwan to visit a human research facility. She met Dr. Yunji, a brilliant physicist who looked too young to be leading a major research division, but her credentials were impressive and her enthusiasm was infectious. You want to know the secret of human technology? Yunji asked, leading Jiwan through a laboratory filled with experimental equipment. It's not some miracle discovery or alien gift. It's just applied stubbornness. She pulled up schematics for human faster-than-light drives. The Dominion discovered FTL travel thousands of years ago. Your scientists said, "This is how it works, these are the limitations, nothing we can do about it." Human scientists looked at the same physics and said, "That's interesting, but what if we try this?" We didn't accept limitations. We just kept experimenting until we found ways around them. Yunji showed Jiwan designs for next-generation propulsion systems, new weapon theories, and radical ship configurations. Every design you're looking at is already obsolete. We're 3 generations ahead in development. The ships that defeated your first armada, they're being upgraded right now. We're not content with being equal to the Dominion. We're determined to stay ahead. Why? Jiwan asked. You've proven you're strong enough. Why keep pushing? Yunji's smile faded. Because the galaxy is vast, Commander. We've met a dozen species so far. What about the 13th? Or the 100th? Somewhere out there might be something worse than us, worse than the Dominion. If that day comes, we need to be ready. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. As Jiwan's time on Earth drew to a close, she realized something profound. The Dominion had trembled not because of human weapons, but because humans represented a fundamental challenge to their worldview. The Dominion believed in hierarchy, stability, and the natural order of things. Humans believed in constant change, adaptation, and the refusal to accept limits. Jiwan returned to her people 6 months later, carrying with her new tactics, new ideas, and a new understanding of what strength really meant. She became an advocate for military reform, pushing the Veltar fleet to adopt human training methods and tactical flexibility. Some of her superiors resisted, but others saw the wisdom in her proposals. The galaxy was changing whether they liked it or not. 5 years after the defeat of the First Armada, humanity revealed a new vessel, the KDSF Keonji, a massive colony ship capable of carrying 10,000 people to distant stars. It was armed, because humans never built anything defenseless, but its primary purpose was exploration and peaceful settlement. At the launch ceremony on Earth, representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness the event. The Galactic Consortium had grown, adding new members who joined specifically because humans had promised to protect smaller species from aggressive expansion by larger ones. Ambassador Tajin, now semi-retired but still influential, stood on the platform overlooking the massive ship. A young Dominion cadet approached him nervously. She'd come to Earth as part of a student exchange program, one of hundreds of such programs established between human and Dominion space. Ambassador Tajin, the cadet asked, I have a question. If humanity wants peace, why do you still build warships? Why arm a colony vessel? Tajin looked at the young cadet with his characteristic smile. That's an excellent question.